And we're live. Hello, everybody. Hello, hello.
Hey everyone.
Let's see. We have no viewers in the chat. Oh, there we go. Now we have three. What is up? Thank you for coming to the live recording of the Attractions Podcast number 75.
Oh my god, 75. We're
Yeah,
going to be at 100 soon. Are we going to have a party when we get to 100?
we have to, let's order pizza on the podcast. Like, have it delivered on the show.
To every viewer?
No, just to us.
Oh, just to us. Okay.
It'll be like a mukbang where they can like eat with us while we talk about
I've
stuff.
tried watching a few of those videos and I don't get it. I especially don't get the ones that show people like ordering like lobster or like
Oh, yeah.
king crab, really like high-end beautiful seafood and then just shoving it in their mouth with like no consideration. It's like that's a beautiful piece of fish. A gorgeous creature died so
Yeah.
that you could shove it in your mouth with no regard. It's just
And then
I
they
don't.
like have this giant vat of melted butter that
Yeah,
they
it just makes me kind of ill. I don't know. Not my thing. Anyway,
Anyways, Rodney, what is up? Good evening. Michael's here. Oh,
hey
I
Michael.
WWE Elimination Chamber. I saw that on
By
Twitter.
the end of March, all right.
Julie, hello from Southern California. What is up?
Hey Julie.
Headed to Walt Disney World in July.
Awesome.
Derek, hello. Drew,
Hello, Drew.
good evening, guys.
Yay. All right. We're up to
Well,
57 already.
yeah, I think once we hit 60, we can. Oh,
There we go.
I willed it into the universe. All right. In 3, 2. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 75 of the Attractions Podcast. I'm Brittany.
And I'm Seth.
We're here to talk to you about the latest and greatest in theme park news and more, as well as what's going on in our own lives, which Seth and I talked about before the show.
You know, normally we start with my week. I think we need to talk about your week.
Oh, God. Okay, well, as you guys know, I live in Texas, and we got blizzarded last week.
You may have heard something about it on the news, you know.
It was really bad, and I got hit with like every single thing you don't want to happen to you. My power went out, I lost heat, I lost water, and a pipe burst in my house. So I camped out for 2 days at a neighbor's house because they had a fireplace and food. And I let the team at attractions take the reins for 2 straight days, and I felt helpless and useless.
We missed you. We missed you so much. And can I say props to you for coming and doing the show tonight? Because I would be busy having PTSD on my couch.
I'm going to therapy. It's fine. Um, to be quite honest, like it was really traumatic, but I know that we are far more fortunate than a lot of people going through this right now. Some people have been dehomed because of this, and just like losing access to water. We had to send clothes off with a local laundry service because we don't have a washing machine anymore. So if you're interested in supporting those who have been upended by this whole thing, look into mutual aid funds in Austin, Houston, Dallas. Check it out. They can always take donations and help. And if you're local, offer to boil water for a friend that doesn't have any water, or something. Do anything, because it's really rough right now, and it's the snow is all melted, luckily, but it may be a hot minute before we get back to an actual normal.
You've been like living in the first act of Carousel of Progress.
I never knew that was something I would not enjoy.
The most important question is the dog okay?
The dog is fine. When we were camping out at our neighbor's place, they had 2 other dogs staying with them, huge dogs to match Brody's giant personality. So he was in heaven. He didn't know what was going on. He actually slept straight through the pipe bursting and us trying to repair it. Like, did not flinch at all.
Perfect guard dog. On the alert at all times.
But that's been my week.
I'm so sorry you had to go through that.
I'm hanging in there. That's
Yeah, here in Florida, it's been mostly sunny, lovely weather.
great.
I had a little bit of a rough week too. Let me see if I can bring up the picture. Uh, this here was Brubeck, and he was our cat for 8 years and 3 days. And yesterday we had to put him to sleep. He had health problems for a long while, but it still came really sudden, and we weren't prepared. So I just wanted to give Brubeck a shout out. He was the sweetest cat ever, and we're gonna miss him a lot.
I'm
So,
sorry.
but on a positive note, the Muppets are now on Disney Plus. So we have
Yes.
been going through the Muppet Show, and that has definitely been helping with the grieving process. So
Well, good. I'm glad to hear it. Hopefully, this next week will be way better for the both of
aim
us.
it can't get no worse,
No,
to quote the Beatles.
well, no, you say that, and then I'm gonna have more pipes burst in the middle of the night. Well, without further ado, shall we get into the
Let's
news?
talk about some happy news.
First up this week, a new Harry Potter exhibition is coming in 2022.
This is exciting because I remember seeing the preview of the Harry Potter exhibition that was part of the Wizarding World weekends that they used to hold at Universal Orlando.
Rest in
And
peace.
yes, and it's good to know that a new version of that is going to be going out on the road, featuring not just the Harry Potter films, but also Fantastic Beasts.
Yeah, I've been to the Hunger Games exhibition in Vegas,
Yes.
and to my understanding, it's run by the same company,
hmm
or at least put together the
They
same.
also do a Titanic exhibition that's very well done, and a very popular Downton Abbey exhibition
Oh
they did.
yeah. So, based on my experience with the Hunger Games one, it's incredible. The
hmm
archery thing made me want to take up archery as a sport. They have like a game with a giant touch screen where you shoot arrows to hit
hmm
targets. The costumes are beautiful, and it's all themed. It's not just you're walking through an exhibit
Yeah.
with robes everywhere. Like it's designed thematically to
Yeah.
match.
It's kind of like a walk-through museum of screen used props and costumes and artifacts of that type. But it kind of it's not just static displays. It sort of tells the story of the creation of the films. And yeah, I highly recommend it if it comes to your town.
Yeah, this one it's I can't wait. I have mixed feelings about Harry Potter as of late, but I'm very
I
interested to see
I
what kind of
noticed did I just miss it on the logo? But it doesn't say J.K. Rowling's Wizarding World. Does it still say J.K. Rowling's
it
Wizarding World,
it
or does it
does
just say
not.
Wizarding World?
It's just Wizarding World, but I don't know how recent of a
hmm
change that is.
Yeah, I don't see her name in put in the press releases quite as many times these days. They seem to downplay it a little.
Yeah, well, keep an eye out for this. Hopefully, they'll release some images soon, or at least some concept art of the exhibit, so we can get an idea of what this will look like. This I know people are not fans of the Disney remakes. However, the Cruella remake, it's not a remake, looks cool.
It's not a remake. It is a prequel that reimagines the origins of Cruella. So it takes place long before the Dalmatian puppies were ever born. There's a couple little Dalmatian shout outs in the new trailer that's out. But this is sort of like her origin story. I guess this is like Disney trying to make a Joker.
And that's what it feels like. Yeah.
I visually, I can't tell you much about the story, the plot from watching the trailer, but visually, it looks good. It's set in the '70s London fashion world, so it's got a kind of a punk Vivienne Westwood look to it, which I really like.
Yeah, same. It's also directed by the same director that did I, Tanya, which I loved.
Yeah.
And that's kind of an auteur lane for Disney to step in, but I feel like it's appropriate here.
I feel at least, from the marketing and from the trailer, they're trying to make something that's a little edgier, that's a little, I don't know, more hip than your average Disney remake. Um, I wasn't the biggest fan of the Maleficent film. I know it has fans. This I'm actually kind of more interested in this because it seems maybe a little more grounded. I don't know. We'll
Same.
we'll see.
Also, Emma Thompson as like the villain adjacent. Very excited about that.
And of course they have to have a cameo in there from Glenn Close because
Please.
she was the original live action Cruella.
I was watching, she did an interview with Pete Davidson from Saturday Night Live not too long ago, and she said she kept all the costumes. She said she had it written into her contracts that she got to keep all of the clothes.
I'm assured they were not made of real Dalmatians.
Oh, yes, of course. And this film will be releasing in theaters, but that is subject to change.
Yeah.
As of right now, only Raya and the Last Dragon, which we'll talk about later, is set to release in theaters and on Disney Plus Premier Access. Black Widow is still set to be theaters only as well as this, and they both come out in May.
Yeah.
But depending on the audience interest in going back to the theater so soon, may change that. But I'm excited. I will withhold my judgment until I see it.
Yeah. Yes, I'm definitely more interested after watching the trailer than I was before.
Yes.
Personally, if there was one movie I was gonna go to an actual movie theater for, it would probably be Black Widow before Cruella. But either way, Disney will probably get my money eventually.
Right. SeaWorld San Diego has announced some new events for 2021. It recently reopened as a zoo since parks are still not able to be open with rides and such out in California. But new for this year will be their debut of Hallowscream, which I know is huge for the haunt community.
This has actually surprised me a little bit. This is the first time I can think of that a single park has done both Spooktacular and Hallowscream at the same time. Typically, like SeaWorld here in Orlando will do the Spooktacular, which is their all ages, family friendly, not so scary event, while Busch Gardens in Tampa does the Hallowscream. So they're kind of taking that Hallowscream name from Busch Gardens, and I guess they'll maybe stagger it so during the day it will be friendly for the kids, and that at night it will get scary. Be interesting to see how they handle that transition.
I I may be wrong, but I swear I feel like SeaWorld San Antonio does the same thing where they do Spooktacular during the
Do
day.
they do both? Okay,
I
I,
think
I
they do.
stand corrected. I
I
do believe this will be a first for the SeaWorld in San Diego, so hopefully I'm right on that.
This is the park's second attempt at a haunt style event. It was formerly called Terrors of the Deep in the early 2000s.
That's going way back in theme
Going
park.
way
20,
back.
20 years almost. Yep.
And then SeaWorld San Diego will offer Halloween Spooktacular on select dates. And they will also do Sesame Street Kids Weekends and SeaWorld Barbecue and Brews Food Festival from September through October.
Yeah, there's rumors, some announcements of California parks starting to bring their rides back in the spring. But it's San Diego, as long as they're just operating as a zoo, it seems like they're going to be using as many events as they can to bring people in.
Mm-hmm. That seems to be the trend for now.
Absolutely.
If you are interested in staying at the Walt Disney World Swan Reserve, reservations are now open.
So this is the hotel that was, I believe, originally called the Cove.
Yes.
And then was rebranded as the Reserve. And it's interesting, the Swalfin resorts, as I call them, have always been in this weird place, a little bit like the Hotel Plaza hotels where they're on Disney property. They're surrounded by Disney World, but they are not technically Disney hotels. So your mileage may vary in terms of the operations and the perks that you get. But generally, like I've stayed at the Dolphin, and I found it was fairly well run, and it's great proximity to both Hollywood Studios and Epcot. If those are the two parks you're most interested in, and especially if you have like rewards points with the hotel chain that runs these, it can be a really good option.
We have Thrill Geek in the chat. Hello.
With lots of eyes.
With
Hey
lots of
there.
eyes. Snooper's gonna snoop. Some of the features at the Swan and Dolphin include View, which is a rooftop space for special events that offers views of the parks, a new Mediterranean restaurant, a grab-and-go cafe, complimentary transportation to all the parks and Disney Springs, yada, yada, yada. But check it out. Reservations start on September 1st if you're interested.
Yeah. If you're looking for something that is highly themed, this is not it. It's
Right.
it's pretty much a corporate chain hotel that's been dressed up. But location, location, location.
Mm-hmm. This, I'm very excited to see. Raya and the Last Dragon animation experience coming to Disney's Animal Kingdom, as well as a really cute sand sculpture that I see they've already been working on. I've seen pictures on social.
Yeah, so this is starting the animation tomorrow, the animation experience. That's the 20 tomorrow from when we're recording this. It might be today if you're listening to it on the 22nd. But this to me is gems of Animal Kingdom. Doesn't really totally belong in the park. It was originally at Hollywood Studios in the old animation tour, and it was the highlight of that, and it's definitely the best reason to take that train out to Rafiki's Planet Watch. It's a little bit of a hike to get there, but now especially that you've got a new character from the upcoming movie to learn how to draw, it's another reason to make that trip out.
I actually got to watch this movie yesterday.
Jealous?
I'm
hearing good things.
I can't give a full review until March the 1st. I think that's when the embargo is up. But I really liked it. I kind of wish it was a video game or that they would make sequels. But it tells a very nice... The world building is just so good. Also, this little critter, Tuk Tuk, is... he's described as an armadillo mixed with something, mixed with a pug. And I love that.
He's really cute.
Really cute. But he's only this little for like the first part of the movie, and then he's big for the rest of the movie.
Well, I think then they picked the correct form to teach people to draw, because I can see him being really popular.
I hope they make plush. That's all I'm gonna say.
This is Disney. There's plush probably already on its way. On a slow boat from China. It'll be here in time for the opening.
True that. And if you're interested in seeing the sand sculpture, it will be on display through the end of March. They were, I guess, finishing up today. And if you want to see Raya and the Last Dragon, you can catch it in theaters or at home on Disney Plus Premier Access on March the 5th. Please watch it however you choose to. I really enjoyed it. Kelly Marie Tran is awesome. Help her secure the bag. Thank you. Star Wars Trading Post is now open at the downtown Disney district at Disneyland Resort. And it looks about how I expected.
It looks suspiciously like a rainforest cafe that was taken over by a bunch of camo netting and leftover Star Warsy doodads.
Oh, don't forget the stickers too.
Stickers, yes. Vinyl appliques everywhere. We didn't expect them to gut the restaurant, and this is pretty much just taking up the retail section that was the front of the store. I don't think it takes up the whole dining area, as far as I know.
If
I don't know how deep does it go. It's a little hard to tell from some of the pictures that we have.
it at least
Um,
goes all the way
it at
back
least
to
goes back to that tree.
Tracy Tree, rest
Yep.
in peace.
R.I.P. Tracy Tree.
Someone in the attractions work group chat, I can't remember if it was Quinn or Theron, said, "What if the wires in the porg nest belonged to Tracy Tree?" And
Ah.
I haven't been able to just look at that photo and not think about that.
I know that there are Rainforest Cafe fans out there. Personally, I always thought it was weird that you had the Jungle Cruise, 100 yards away, and you could see that the Jungle Cruise animatronics, even though they were 50 years old and sitting out in the rain, still looked 100 times better than anything inside the Rainforest Cafe. So I always thought like that was a great thing to put in a mall in Chicago, where you
Yeah.
didn't have a Disney park right next door. But I always thought that in the shadow of Disneyland, it always came off as kind of cheesy to me. But I'm glad that the space is being used for something, I guess, that's a
Else?
positive spin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What if they give us what is the planet that they're on in episode 9 that's the jungle? I haven't watched it since it came out, so I can't remember. What if,
I can tell you the name of every Star Wars planet from the first 6 movies. I can't tell you.
oh,
I
Age
can't tell you.
Kloss, that's what it is.
All right, you'll take your word for it.
What if they gave us a Rainforest Cafe style restaurant with Star Wars stuff in it?
I mean that would be great. That's what we all thought that the Cantina was going to be
Yeah,
at
well.
Galaxy's Edge. Someday we can dream. We can dream.
I'm gonna keep hopeful because I'm foolish in that regard. Hong Kong Disneyland has reopened. It reopened on the 19th after closing for the third time due to COVID
Third
19.
third time's the charm. Hopefully this time they can stay open.
Yeah, and it was right after they unveiled the Castle of Magical Dreams too, which made me really sad for them.
Yeah, I'm still not going to be booking a flight out there
Nope.
next week. But it's good to see that they are able to get back open, albeit with much more restrictions than we have here. Reading through the list, here we can book reservations for our park passes months in advance, but out there it's like 7 days in advance if you're a regular tourist, and if you have their equivalent of an annual pass, it's only like 9 days. So that's pretty short notice. And they use a QR code system, which is common in China, to track your movements and your health status. And I don't know if a lot of Americans would go along with that.
Yeah, I feel like we talked about this before.
Mhm.
Shanghai Disneyland did a
I
similar
feel like this might be the third time we've talked about.
I get a strange sense of deja vu. Yeah, and they also have COVID-19 testing for cast members that's mandatory every 2 weeks, which is
Definitely something that I don't think we're having here.
Nope.
Which could I think a lot of cast members would appreciate that.
Yeah, it couldn't hurt. Temperature screening, face mask, social distancing, cleaning, sanitation, all of that. You can check out the full list of everything that guests have to do in order to visit. And the park is currently operating on a 5-day week, with it closed on Tuesdays and Thursdays, except for public holidays and such. And they also have limited capacity as well. But here's hoping that it stays open. I saw Clint actually from Thrill Geek retweet a flight out to Japan from Miami for September or something, because I bookmarked it. I was like, I'm saving that for later. So maybe we're looking at international travel coming up soon. I don't know if I'll be jumping at the chance to do it.
I'm not personally booking any flights until governments start saying that they want Americans in their countries again.
Right, yeah.
Even once we start getting vaccinated, I'm not sure. It's going to take a while before they open the doors to us.
Right. Well, might as well stay safe. Speaking of Hong Kong, Woody got a makeover.
He
and
did.
I have to say, he looks a lot better.
So the old walk around Woody looked a little creepy. It's hard, without looking at the photo in front of you, if you're listening on the podcast and not watching the video, to describe exactly what the difference is. A lot of it is in the shape of the mouth and the expression of the eyes. But he looks more natural and less like something out of a Twilight Zone episode.
Yeah, he looks dead in the face
Yeah,
in the old costume.
yeah,
Also, kind of like puffy, if that makes sense. Like,
yeah.
yeah, puffy.
Now it's because the new photos that we have seem to be taken indoors, and the ones we're using for comparison are in outdoor lighting. It's hard to judge the colors totally accurately, but he looks like they've gone with lighter, brighter colors, especially with his hair and hat. Um, and just it's a subtle change to the shape of the jaw, the shape of the mouth, and just the expression of the eyes. That's where they really improved the sculpt of that head. It's
Mhm.
also interesting that he seems to be a little bit shorter.
Oh, yeah.
um, and that might be a couple reasons, just to speculate. If they are casting actors in Hong Kong area for these roles, it's probably more challenging to find taller people just because of the demographics. And I think that the tall characters can be really intimidating to kids. Just bringing them down a couple inches makes kids a lot less likely to freak out when they're at a meet and greet.
Hmm. I hope that this revamp of the characters carries over to other Toy Story meet and greet characters. Buzz and Jesse, especially. Um, Jesse has no neck, and it's always bothered me.
Poor Jessie, no neck. That's why she got left under the bed.
No neck, Jesse.
That's why she got put in the box.
Oh God, that movie is kind of dark and dramatic. But I wonder how long it'll be when if we see this character costume update come over stateside.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing the upgrade, especially if they get the new head over here. That would be beautiful.
Oh yeah. And then in our last bit of news in the queue before we go into spoiler cast mode, the Disney Park Pass has been extended through January 2023. So for those of you hoping that things would go back to normal in 2022, I hate to tell you, but they're not.
Now, I mean, just because they've extended the reservation system through then, doesn't mean that they can't go back.
Right.
I think this is the worst case scenario, but I don't necessarily mind it that much. I think that the Park Pass system, even more than the Fast Pass Plus system, really gives them a sense of how many people are going to be at the park each day, where staffing is going to be needed. Since they shifted allocation around, I haven't had much trouble as an annual pass holder getting a reservation for when I want. And while I know we can't always stay at 35% capacity, I think the parks have benefited from them being able to manage people in that way, and it can't hurt to stick around, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I've made it no secret on this podcast that I'm not a huge fan of Fast Pass Plus.
Right.
The Park Pass system, I haven't personally used it, but it seems pretty straightforward, easy to use. I just wonder about Bob Chapek's recent comments on the Disney earnings call, saying that regulations and rules will start to ease up next year. What that means if we're keeping the Park Pass. Does that mean masks? Does that mean social distancing?
Yeah.
Limited capacity?
I think that you're going to see them doing everything they can to reduce social distancing while still saying they're doing social distancing. I noticed yet again even more plexiglass put into, this time, the queue at the Haunted Mansion. And that's the kind of the cosmetic stuff. The cubicles inside the monorail cars is absolutely hysterical to me. So they're gonna do that kind of demonstrative, performative, social distancing stuff while raising the capacity and, putting more people in the park. I think masks will hopefully, to me, be the last thing to go.
Yeah.
I know personally, even after they stop enforcing them, I'm going to keep wearing them because
Same.
this is the first year that I have not caught a cold.
All right.
So um, I'm sticking with it. It was good enough for people in Asia for years before the pandemic, and I'm fine with that from now on.
Yeah.
Though I'm sure they won't enforce it. I don't think past the end of this year. Once our government announces that a certain threshold of people have been vaccinated, I think you're going to see a lot of this stuff start to disappear.
Yeah, I think Biden's most recent statement was that he had hoped to get all eligible adults vaccinated by the end of this summer. So we could see things start
Yeah.
to change rather quickly.
Yep.
All right. And before we get into spoiler cast,
hmm
if you have not watched episodes 6 and 7, because we missed last week, of WandaVision, please skip ahead like 15-20 minutes. That's your warning.
That was it.
All right, episode 6, which was the all new Halloween spooktacular episode. How did you feel about this? There were a lot happened in these past 2 episodes.
It's a lot to process, and going through both of them. Um, First of all, the stuff with Pietro, we could spend like an hour dissecting. Just that moment where he mocks her, saying, your dead husband can't die twice, and she knocks him into next week. We could spend an hour unpacking that.
Yeah. Well, let's start with the opening. This episode was set in like the 90s, early 2000s era, and the opening credits paid homage to Malcolm in the Middle, which I loved. I thought it was so funny. Really cheesy, very on the nose. And then we open, and Vision is kind of just gone. He's like starting to get suspicious of Wanda, and he's like, I'm just gonna go neighborhood watch. And then we see the boys interacting with Pietro a lot, and Wanda dresses up as a Sokovian fortune teller in her comics accurate Wanda costume. And things are starting to get really weird. Vision's starting to figure things out, realizes that towards the edge of the hex, people are just kind of standing in place or doing repetitive motions, like that one lady that kept hanging things up and like cried the single tear.
Super creepy.
Oh, that was so messed up. And then he runs into Agnes and wakes her up using his little forehead touch thingy. And she's like, oh my God, am I dead? And he's like, no, why? She said, because you are. And he was like, what?
Yeah, so this is Vision finally really cluing in that stuff is majorly wrong. Of course, we get a different spin on that moment with Agnes a little later in that episode.
Yeah. Ooh. And then outside of Westview, where the sword people are camped out, Tyler Hayward is preparing to literally launch a bomb on Wanda.
Probably not a smart choice. He
No.
obviously did not watch Infinity War. Like, you saw her almost kill Thanos single-handedly, and you're gonna launch a missile at her? Really?
She totally would have if he didn't call in reinforcements too, let's be honest. But because Darcy and Monica and Jimmy are all like, you can't do that, don't antagonize her, he kicks them out for questioning his authority, but they sneak back in, hack into his computer system, and figure out that they've been tracking Vision's vibranium signature because he's made of the stuff.
And you gotta love that their secret plan to control Vision is called Operation Cataract.
And they also figure out that Monica's blood work, after examining it, her molecular structure is changing drastically. And if she goes through the hex one more time, it could change her on a radical level that she can't come back from. And then Vision tries to push through the static at the edge of the hex to get help for those who are stuck inside, and begins to fall apart rather horrifyingly.
It does not look pleasant at all.
It was really kind
It's
of.
like exfoliation gone way too far.
And Darcy is begging Hayward to stop Vision, but he handcuffs her to a car. Billy senses that Vision is dying, tells Wanda, and she uses her magical powers to expand the hex enough that Vision is now back inside the boundary, and it saves his life. But it also kind of swallows up Darcy.
And she gets to join the circus.
Yes, she does, as an escape artist. And then this episode, I think, had the most disturbing commercial. It was claymation, very 90s.
Oh my God, it was horrifying.
It's like, what is happening? So basically, the commercial is for a yogurt called Yo Magic, and it's this boy stranded on an island. He's starving, and then a shark rolls up, and he's like, "Hey, little dude, eat this," and then hands him a packet of yogurt. But the boy struggles to open it, literally until he starves to death and turns into a skeleton.
Totally disturbing.
It was,
and obviously some sort of metaphor for her guilt over her, I don't know, using her magic to bring Vision back, and him. I don't know exactly what the metaphor was, but it was creepy as heck.
I read it because the shark, and this may be a reach, the shark spoke his vernacular, and the way he carried himself sounded very similar to Pietro in this episode.
Okay.
So I don't know, maybe he's the shark. I don't know. He definitely did some weird things. Like Wanda asked him, what happened to your accent? He says, well, what happened to yours? And then says some snarky crap about Vision dying twice. And
yeah, it at times it's almost like they're listening to what people are saying on Twitter and just writing it into the script. It's gotten very meta. You know, well, the next episode is called, you know, Breaking the Fourth Wall, but you know, it's very aware of you know, the interaction of fans with these characters and people's theories, and is almost kind of like almost written to tease and then respond to those ideas that it raises.
I think that just speaks to how good the writing is, that we're kind of playing into their hand with everything. And then
it also leads, if this was a binge watch, if this had all come out in one block, we would have been done talking about it. But the fact that we get just this little half-hour tease every week, and then we can chew over all the details and Easter eggs, that's what makes it so much more interesting, for sure.
Yeah, it's killing me. And then these last, because episodes 8 and 9, I believe, are an hour long. So we we get treated this next 2 episodes
because they got a lot of splaining to do.
Oh my God, yes,
we got a lot to wrap up.
Starting with Breaking the Fourth Wall, we have now reached the 2010s era of sitcom Marie.
With an opening that the music is like a perfect copy of The Office.
Yeah.
And then you've got like Modern Family in there, and just the whole mockumentary talking into the camera thing. It's just perfectly done.
We also got a Jim Halpert.
Yes.
At one point in the episode from Vision, which was delicious. But starting out this episode, Wanda decides to have a day to herself, and Agnes, being the good neighbor that she is, agrees to babysit Tommy and Billy and takes them over to her house.
Yes.
Vision wakes up and finds the sword agents inside the boundary and sees that they are now members of the circus that's in town. Darcy is there as well. He releases her using his hand to forehead magic, and she basically fills him in previously on
Wandavision.
And she tells him about how he died, how Wanda had to watch all of this traumatic garbage, and he's like, I get it. But then they have to figure out how to get all of these people out of the hex. And while he's trying to get home. He's being prevented to various happenings throughout the city, like kids crossing the street from school, construction on the road.
It's very Truman Show.
Yeah. It's almost as though someone's watching and trying to control everything. And then Wanda's confused, like, well, Vision obviously doesn't want to come home. So both sides are being played here. And then Monica pushes her way into the hex in one of the coolest sequences I've seen in a while. Maybe it's just because I'm so starved on Marvel before this. But we get audio from Captain Marvel where she's talking about her and her mother, and she gets powers.
It's interesting because we've known that this character becomes a superhero. She's had multiple names. Ms. Marvel is, I guess, most recent, or who is she currently?
Everyone thought she was going to be the Photon persona.
Photon, yeah.
But I think she's Spectrum this time around.
That would make sense, especially with her new ability to see the electromagnetic spectrum.
Yeah.
She can see the Matrix.
It's so cool, and her eyes glow this like intense blue. And
I had kind of guessed prior to her involvement in WandaVision that when she was introduced, her powers would come through her, knowing Captain Marvel. But for her origin to be completely separate from that, but then them still kind of call back to the movie, I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, and I also need to know what the beef is between her and Captain Marvel.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it has something to do with her mother's death.
Yeah.
But I just thought it was really impressive that when you get superpowers, you instantly know how to do that 3-point landing.
Superhero landing.
Yep.
Oh, it was so cool. And Monica tries to convince Wanda that she's here to help. Wanda's like, you tried to throw a bomb at me. And then Agnes shows up and she's like, I think you should leave, to Monica. And then we start to get the sinister feeling that Wanda is maybe not fully in control of this. And Agnes takes Wanda over to her house. And Wanda's like, where are my kids? And Agnes says, oh, they're probably playing in the basement. She goes into the basement, and it looks like a spooky castle basement.
It looks like somewhere where you would sacrifice a goat.
Yep. There is a weird, creepy book that is emitting some spooky red smoke that people think will give Wanda her chaos magic powers, where she could fully become Scarlet Witch. And then trapping Wanda in there, Agnes reveals herself to be who everyone thought she was, Agatha Harkness, but I guarantee everyone was still like,
And then we got the best theme song of all time.
Oh, Agatha all along. She took over the show. She's the star of the show.
Yep.
And we got a killer theme song, which Catherine Hahn, bless her, she sings that. Like, that's her.
Oh, awesome.
I love her. She's eating this role up. I knew this was going to happen, but it still felt like a surprise.
Yeah, so the twist all along is that Agnes has been manipulating things, and we still don't know. Wanda has to be in some way responsible for the bubble, the hex. I mean, that's her power, but Agnes has been manipulating everything that's been going on, and the part that I thought was most interesting was seeing that she is behind Pietro's appearance.
Yeah.
So we have been wondering. Has Wanda splintered the multiverse? Is she bringing characters in from the X-Men? Is that what's happening? Or no, maybe this is just Agnes messing with her mind, and this does not signal some, huge permanent change in the MCU.
See, I think our first mid-credit scene that we have gotten this entire run happened in this episode, where Monica is snooping around Agatha's house, and Pietro, I love how everyone's using quotes around.
Quote, yes.
And Pietro says, Snooper's gonna snoop, and then does something, and Monica's eyes turn from blue to purple, and
Mm-hmm.
purple is Agatha's magic color.
Yep.
Um, I wonder, because if Pietro, quotes, is a figment of magic, then would he be able to bust her like that? Or is he someone else under a glamour? Is he Pietro from the X-Men Fox universe pulled across the multiverse, but he's under Agatha's control?
Thankfully, we have 2 episodes left to find
Yeah.
out.
And we still don't know Dottie, because I've been waiting to figure out who she is, because before
She's
the show
got to
started,
be someone because she shows up. They make a point of showing her when there's really no reason to. So
Yeah.
she's got to have some purpose.
Well, I've been holding on to this anecdote from an interview I read before the show started, where that actress was not able to be cast in the role of Dottie until Kevin Feige said yes. So I know she's important.
Was reading a fan theory online that was obsessed with the flowers and the color yellow, saying that you should look into the association of the color yellow. So, because all the major characters, have a color associated. Wanda is red, Agnes is purple. So, and Dottie seem to be associated with yellow. So,
Interesting.
I don't know what that means.
And then we still have a Luke Skywalker level appearance to be made, and Paul Bettany said it's a character that hasn't been introduced yet in the show, and it's someone he's never worked with before.
Okay, so we've still got at least one more big cameo surprise before the season ends.
Yeah. So if you feel like taking that much time on your hands.
Well, I know a lot of people were hoping that the aerospace engineer who was going to bring Monica's ride was going to be Reed Richards from Fantastic Four. But I don't know. If they're building up to a Fantastic Four movie, it seems weird to waste that on an episode of a TV show.
Well, they only just started writing it because the Daily Mail came out with that rumor yesterday that Jennifer Lawrence was cast as Sue Storm.
Okay.
It's not true.
All right.
But we shall see. And also at this point, are we in full-on Marvel mode, or are we going to get a sitcom era next week?
That's a good question. And what era is it now? Like I don't know what comes after. Is there another style, another genre past the kind of Modern Family, The Office?
I don't see. I feel like we are still in that era.
Yeah. I don't know if we've. So maybe it'll all be Letterbox. We'll be in the real world for the whole episode. Who knows?
That would be neat.
You got to pay careful attention to the aspect ratios during the episode. It's constantly changing to give you clues as to which universe you're in or which reality.
Drew said Mystique is Sue Storm. That's what I thought. And to my understanding, she didn't.
Hey, if the Human Torch can be Captain America, then why can't Mystique be Sue Storm?
Man, I don't know.
There are only so many actors in the world. Come on.
I know. They're putting the cart before the horse, the Fantastic Horse.
Let's have. I mean, there have been at least, if you include the Roger Corman movie, there have been 1, 2, 3 terrible Fantastic Four origin movies, and then an even more terrible sequel. So, let's get a script first, and then we'll cast it.
Yeah. But stay tuned for next week. I'm really afraid that next week is going to end on like a blistering cliffhanger that will kill me.
Yeah, that would be rough. You just have to, it'll say, have to go see Doctor Strange 2 in theaters to know what happens next.
Oh, it's going to, I know it's going to end with Wanda Maximoff will return in.
Like in the old James Bond movies. James Bond will return in Octopussy.
Who will kill me. I can't wait that long. That movie's got pushed back too. It's not going to come out for so long. But Danny Elfman is doing the score, so that's neat. And for this week's main attraction, we've got some 50th anniversary news finally.
Yay, finally.
Finally, I was starting to think it didn't exist. But over on Good Morning America this past week, Disney shared a look at some glamours, I guess you could call them, projection, mapping, and a few adornments that will be added to the castle and Magic Kingdom, the Tree of Life at Animal Kingdom, Hollywood Tower Hotel at Hollywood Studios, and of course, Epcot.
For those of us who are old enough to remember the 25th anniversary of Magic Kingdom, oh boy, did we dodge a bullet, folks, this time. I mean, we could have had another horrible pink birthday Barbie dream castle cake. And instead, it looks like they're just putting some very subtle touches. You know, they're adding a little bit of gold adornment and a kind of crest to the castle. We're going to get some firefly twinkle lights around the Tree of Life. They're going to bling up the Hollywood Tower Hotel. I think the one that I'm most thankful for is they're doing some sort of lights on Spaceship Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And if you were around for the horrors of the Wand and the giant
Yes.
2000, which that later became Epcot, that thing ruined people's pictures for years. So knowing that they're not doing anything nearly that gaudy is a blessing. I'm grateful for the maybe they, before the pandemic, they had plans to really go all out, and they scaled back the budget. And if so, thank you, because less is more. This looks like a nice little tasteful sprinkling of pixie dust, and not like I was afraid they were just gonna slap that iridescent paint all over everything.
Ugh. What about Stitch TPing Cinderella Castle?
At least that was one day. That was one day. We're whatever this is, we're stuck with it for 18 months. So it better be tasteful.
And Spaceship Earth, this concept art looks gorgeous, and I saw pictures of poor Spaceship Earth yesterday. It's kind of
it needs a lot of TLC. If them installing this new lighting package means that they go through and clean some of the tiles that have rust dripping down them, beautiful.
Right? Okay, in my book.
Yep. And we're not getting the interior renovation that it needs for a while, but at least the exterior will look better.
Yeah. I'm really interested to see the Hollywood Tower Hotels projections as well. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed the holiday stuff.
They do a nice job with those, especially like they've got a Toy Story one and a Muppets one that are really good. So I wonder if this is something that's going to be like a show that rotates at specific times, or is it just a continuous animation? It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, that we shall see. I love the color palette, like the weird oil slicky iridescence. I think that's very pretty.
They almost all look like Thomas Kincaid paintings.
Yeah. You know what? You're right. And to match all of this new grandeur, Mickey and Minnie are getting some really cute new costumes.
Yeah.
I really like them.
I think they remind me a little of the 60th from Disneyland, but then with this new iridescent fabric, this fabric that goes from kind of blue to purple to green, depending on what angle you're looking at it. But no, they look classy.
Yeah. It also makes me think of the, at least with Mickey, the opening outfit he wore for Shanghai.
Yep.
That blue with the gold trim.
Mm-hmm.
The celebration for the 50th officially begins on October 1st of this year, though these costumes could show up in the park sooner than that.
Yep, we'll keep an eye out, and maybe we'll spot them sometime before October 1st.
Yeah, and then there's some really nice embroidery on the jacket of Mickey's jacket that has the 50 emblem that they're going with for this year, and then Minnie's is silky and iridescent and beautiful. I can't wait to see them not in a parade, because we're not getting one of those as far as I know.
Well, I noticed there's a little work being done on the forecourt stage in front of the castle. So maybe they're thinking of some new kind of socially distant character greeting in front of the castle. I know they have been making appearances regularly from the train station. I got to see them up there just the other day.
That would be really fun to take a selfie with the castle done up all for the 50th and then
Mm-hmm.
in the background. That would be nice. Or give us some new entertainment. Come on.
Yeah.
You only turn 50 once.
Hopefully.
Hopefully, anyway. But that's it. That's everything I had to share with you this week. And before we go, I have one listener thank you to share. In case you did not know, Attractions has a 4-tier subscription service. And if you subscribe through the club or VIP levels, the week after you join, you get your name shouted out on the podcast. So this week's big thank yous and applause goes to Stephen Alves. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Applause, applause, applause. And if you're interested, you can head over to attractionsmagazine.com/store and check it out for yourself. You can also pick up our winter 2020-2021 issue or try the new digital subscription option if you like reading your things on iPads and iPhones. And we are working on our spring 2021 issue. I just submitted some of my contributions today, so keep an eye out for that. And Seth, if you would, tell the folks at home where they can find you on the interwebs.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at @skuberski or at the UG Series. And you can pick up a copy of my new book, The Unofficial Guide to Universal Orlando 2021 at theunofficialguides.com.
Do it. And you can find me at Brittany Tuttle. That's BrittaniTuttle. Yes, it's spelled funny, on Twitter and Instagram. And every day, unless there's a national natural disaster, at attractionsmagazine.com, at Attractions on Twitter, at Attractions Magazine on Instagram, and youtube.com/attractionsmagazine, where you've been hanging out with us for the past 56 minutes for the live show.
And if you have been hanging out with us, please remember to head over to iTunes, leave us a 5-star review so more people can hear about our podcast.
Yeah, you know what will fix my burst pipe? A 5-star review.
Oh, if only. If only.
And until next week, I hope you guys stay safe, wear your mask, wash your hands, but most of all, have fun. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.